we're going to go ahead and start. So welcome, everyone. It's good to be with you. I'm going to say that again. It's good to be with you. Let's pause on that for a moment. So there's about 650, 600, 700 folks here right now. Over 1,000 people registered for this meeting tonight. And as you just saw, they're from almost every state in the country. It might literally be every state, we actually don't know. What that means is that we have people from a lot of red states and a lot of blue states. You're on this call tonight with people from the states that embraced President Trump with open arms and from states who are all about Biden. You're on this call tonight with people from the states where there's still no clear result, where there will be a recount, people who voted mail-in, people who voted in person, probably a few people who didn't vote at all or used a protest vote. We're all here. We're all here tonight, and in a way, we're all here every night. We just don't come together this way. But we live side by side, drive past one another on the highway, past one another in the grocery store. This is a strange moment. In the last 24 hours, we've gone from a nation holding its breath to a nation that is still sort of holding its breath. Or we've exhaled and inhaled and shrieked with joy and then despair and then become quiet, tried to go to bed, slept poorly if you're like me, woken up too soon. In a way, there's nothing to do, and it would feel better if there were something to do. More on that later. It feels a little like things are fine on the surface, but there's this gnawing feeling in the stomach that won't go away. We're still but tense, emotional, and also stationary. I know for a fact that people on this call have all the emotions you can think of right now. In the last 24 hours, I've heard elation, rage, fear, excitement, tentative hopefulness, angry determination, grief, relieved laughter. And the thing I've probably heard the most of is simple sadness. Because the one thing that is clear is that we are still so divided. I want to encourage us to be gentle with one another tonight. We're all here, but we're in very different internal places. Also, we have folks here who probably have a diversity of views about what is in fact going on, because they're drawing on very different news sources and listen through different interpretive lenses. And yet, here we are. There's a way in which that's the most profound thing I can say to you tonight. It's just, here we are. We've come a long way together, friends. Braver Angels was born almost 4 years ago, exactly. A little bit under that, I guess in 3 weeks, it'll be 4 years old. And as some of you, probably a lot of you know, we started in, yes, David Lapp, South Lebanon, Ohio, with a workshop that was a weekend where the thought was, what would happen if we bring 10 Trump supporters and 10 at the time Clinton supporters together and just see if they can talk together. Bill Doherty came in and saved the day by giving us a process that actually made that good, and people just loved it. It was so powerful. And when everyone walked out of that room, we knew that there was something special here. And so then that summer of 2017, we got on a bus and went all over the country running workshops. And then we did it again in the fall. And then the organization just began to grow and grow. And ours has always been an organization where people mostly come to us. They say, I want to help. I want to do this in my community. I want to be a leader in this and figure out how to bring us together. And so now we have a whole suite of workshops. We brought in, the Braver Angels debate program. We have people in all 50 states. I think the current number is 63 alliances. And I also want to share that we're in the middle of a massive growth wave. Our membership has doubled, I believe, in the last 3 or 4 months. This week, we raised $16,000 on grassroots fundraising alone, which is a record. And there's just a lot that is on the rise. And that's wonderful. We've also run, hundreds of workshops, hundreds of debates. People have found one another in communities all over the country. And so we've traveled a long way together. And it's funny, this growth wave is great, but what I feel right now is that while that's good, it doesn't necessarily answer what my heart is saying and asking right now. But I'll tell you what does, our organization's heart. That heart is comprised of 2 things. First and foremost, our relationships with one another. The deep glue of Braver Angels isn't our structure or our workshops or God forbid, our funding. It's the fact that we can meet each other here. We can, and we do, remember who we are, who each other is. We can find one another again. We can meet for the first time. Ask anybody who's really committed to Braver Angels, and they'll tell you about the people they know on the other side. Often it's one person or one interaction, like Blue Mark Epstein and Red Jennifer in Gastonia, North Carolina, who bonded over their children's dance classes. So it's our relationships with one another first. The second thing is our belief that this can be better. There is something we can do here. And even if we ultimately fail, we have to try. We are Braver Angels, we're stubborn people. And we're also people of faith. And I mean little f faith. We're here because we want to be part of the solution. And we have faith that there is something we can do. We're not willing to sit by and watch our country and our communities fall apart one by one. But even more, we have faith in each other. There's a deep relationship between our belief that this can be better and our relationships to each other. Every time I start to lose that faith that we can get somewhere with this, I talk to Kieran O'Connor or Leslie Lopato or Carlos Hernandez, and I can't even tell you how many fantastic people I've met through this organization. And as soon as I talk to you all, I remember these people are wonderful. They're so good. And if I'm with them, I can do anything. So this is a strange moment, but it's also an important one. We're waiting, we're in limbo, and it's not very clear how long that will go on. But there are things we can do. And so tonight we're going to talk about what we need to do in this limbo period. But first, we're going to go a little deeper on that fundamental Braver Angels relationship between a red and a blue. And so for that, I'm going to turn things over to our favorite Bill Doherty and welcome to the spotlight our first red-blue pair. Bill, over to you.
Okay, thank you, April. That was wonderful, April. That was really inspiring, very inspiring. And as we're getting our other panel, you also said, I'm your favorite Bill Doherty. I thought I was your only Bill Doherty, but anyway, thank you for that. So we have Paul Norris on the screen here and soon to be joined by Leslie Lopato and soon to be joined by me. Okay, so folks, we're going to be talking with three red-blue pairs, folks who have worked together for Braver Angels and have developed a civic friendship and sometimes a personal friendship as well. So we're starting with Paul Norris and Leslie Lopato. And so let's just get going. Just the first question is just to tell us something about yourselves personally so people can know something about you that you think that would be good for them to know. Leslie, could you go first?
Sure. I live in San Francisco, which is about as blue as you can get without falling into the ocean. But I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, which is kind of the same, but with snow. My grandparents fled Russia and Poland because of anti-Semitism at the turn of the 20th century. My grandfather was a union organizer for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. And my parents were classically liberals with a dedication to community service. And that's kind of I grew up with a liberal background and have stayed that way myself.
Okay, and Paul, something about you.
Well, I was an early employee at Apple Computer and I worked in tech for 30 years. I currently have a post-retirement career going as a psychotherapist, slight change there. And I have three granddaughters who I love dearly and who fortunately don't look anything like me.
And it looks like you're in the Pacific Ocean.
Well, yeah, when Leslie, talked about going west, I mean, I am west of Leslie.
You can't go any further west without drowning. Okay. So tell us how you two have been connected with each other in Braver Angels. So Paul, start. How have you two gotten together?
So we first met at an inauguration meeting at Leslie's house of Braver Angels. This was actually right after the David Brooks New York Times editorial. And my recollection is that there were 29 blues and myself. I might be slightly off on the numbers.
It might have been 27 blues, but you were the red, right?
Actually, there was one other red, but he didn't talk much. So I don't know if Leslie remembers this, but after that first meeting, I told her that she and I were going to end up running the alliance. And you know, she's been my partner in giving the San Francisco Alliance a level playing field for Reds. We now consistently have pretty doggone good equal balance, and sometimes more Reds than Blues. We frequently serve as co-moderators at workshops or alliance meetings. I think we work well together.
So let me get her in so she can tell some of the story too, Paul. So Leslie, tell about how you two got to work together. Any of this that was accurate, go for it.
Yeah, well, he was accurate. It was in my house, the first meeting. And we kind of sort of backed our way into being a Braver Angels, a Better Angels Than Alliance, not following all the rules. He thought we were going to run this together. I didn't think so at all. And in general, we call ourselves friendly, but not friends. So it may be kind of what you describe as civic friends. We've been to each other's houses, but only for meetings. But we work very well together, which has been the greatest pleasure.
Yeah, okay. It's clear you both feel that way. So the next question is, what are your concerns and gratitudes about the country right now? What are your concerns and gratitudes in any order you want to do concerns and gratitudes? And Leslie, I'll start with you.
I guess my biggest concern right now is just whether there will be a peaceful transition of power in this election if Biden wins, actually if either of them win. And my next biggest concern is that the end of the election isn't really gonna improve the situation as far as the intense polarization in the country goes. And I find the level of anger and hate so demoralizing at times that it is my biggest concern. My gratitude is realizing how many people on both sides want the country to do better. And you know, we share sometimes among our alliance the little small positive gestures that neighbors make. You know, a Trump and Biden neighbor, the Trump neighbor replaced the Biden sign that had been stolen off of his neighbor's lawn. These two neighbors that had signs pointing at each other's house. You know, I'm for Trump, but I love him, and I'm for Biden, but I love him. So that kind of thing gives me hope that people really are willing to be humans together.
Yeah, beautiful. So Paul, concerns and gratitudes.
Well, a lot of what Leslie said goes for me as well. Biggest concern, as I was thinking about this beforehand, is just that our work here in Braver Angels is just going to get lost and swamped in the general fear and enmity. Gratitude, actually, as I was thinking about this, the gratitudes came to me more quickly. One big piece of gratitude is that when I think of the other side, I no longer think of the plastic images created by the media, but I think of the good people who I have sat down with in my home and Leslie's home and other places that we've met. Yeah, that's the biggest gratitude.
Yeah. So any reflections, Leslie, on what you heard from Paul?
I mean, I totally agree with it. I think it's, I mean, I am, or I hope I will be at some point, grateful more for the country and how the country is running and working and, you know, our liberties. But right now, that's not what I'm feeling. Right now, I'm mostly grateful for the people that I know and trust, and people from the other side that I know and trust.
Yeah, and Paul, you're nodding on that one. Yeah, okay. Well, and so that leads to our last question. What have you learned from your relationship, from your civic friendship through Braver Angels that could help others in our country? I think, let's see, who started the last one? I can't remember. So I think Leslie did. So Paul, why don't you start with that one?
I think I have two. One is, I think when Leslie and I lead together, alliance meetings or other things, we keep each other honest. So we keep each other from using our positions to promote our own individual agendas. And I think that works really beautifully. And the last thing I would say is forming a red-blue work pair or forming red-blue relationships, however we do it, is far more than worth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bonanza.
Leslie.
I guess what I've learned from my relationship with Paul and from this work is that it makes you feel better. It makes me feel better. And, you know, what I've said to some people is that the greatest hope that I found in this, what's been a terribly difficult season, long season, has been knowing that there are many people on the other side who are good, rational, kind, thoughtful people. And it gives me a sense of possibility that my more bubbled friends don't have. And, you know, when Paul and I, we needle each other, we argue, we tease each other, we interrupt, we, to use the Yiddish word, we utz each other. I interrupt especially, but we also listen and we laugh a lot and we share things. And that's priceless to me. So that's what I get out of it.
Yeah, so I want to push a little on what other people can do. I mean, if people are listening to you now, how could they step forward? I mean, a lot of people don't know many people have that many relationships with people who are politically different, and you guys have forged one. So any ideas about how people could not just be inspired that you guys have done it, but something that they could do, some tip or some strategy? Yeah, Leslie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is, I think a lot of things that we offer can help people do that. So the one-on-one conversations, the workshops where you actually get, if you are in a really tight bubble, which many people are, they give you an opportunity to actually encounter someone from the other side that you might not encounter otherwise. And the other is, if you know somebody, just go up to them with genuine curiosity and try to ask them what they think and what they feel about what's going on and how it affects them. And sometimes people are so happy to have someone come and talk to them without attacking them that it actually can start a conversation.
Okay. And so Paul, as we're finishing up here, just anything you want to add on some tip or strategy for people who would like to have a civic friendship across the political difference?
Well, first of all, realize that every opportunity is precious. So if you do get an opportunity to connect with somebody from the other side, recognize that that's important and is not easily replaceable. And I think I would also add, I mean, we offer, this guy, Bill Doherty, created all these workshops to try to facilitate this kind of work, like the one-on-ones and the skills workshops. So, the tools are there. Use the tools.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you guys as leading us off here. And if we were all out there, we would all 892 be doing this as a jazz hands. Thank you. So thank you so much for sharing this way.
Thank you.
And now we're going to go to, with the magic of Randy, we're going to go to our next pair. Okay, Lynn.
Hello, good evening.
And Steve, and then magically, there's back to me. Okay, so we have Steve Saltwick and Lynn Heady. Steve always wears blue when he's doing something for Braver Angels as a red. So don't let the colors fool you out there, folks. Just a little ground rule: no apologies for repeating something you heard before, right? Because you'll put it in your own way. So let's just have our conversation. So I'll just say, who would like to start on this one? Something about yourself.
I'm happy to go first.
Okay.
I live in Nashville, Tennessee, by way of Pittsburgh. I'm a retired educator. And I've been with Braver Angels, by the way. I drank the Kool-Aid with one of the first caravans that came along and attended one of the first Red Blue workshops. I was hooked. For me, it gave me what I really needed. So thank you for that. I've done a lot of things with the organization. I've been an organizer, a moderator. I even tried being a participant manager and a Zoom manager, which I don't do anymore. Most importantly, Bill, I love to dance. So there's a little something.
Oh, hey, maybe there's a Braver Angels dance we could develop at some point. So
I'm ready.
Using your talent. Okay. And Steve, something about yourself.
I'm Steve Saltwick. I live in Austin, Texas. And as Bill said, I'm a red, but I wear blue today in honor of all my blue friends, especially Lynn, who I've come to appreciate over the time we've worked together. Austin is a pretty blue town for a red state, so it's kind of interesting with that. Something about myself, I guess I'm a neuroscientist that went through high tech and wound up retiring, and then finding Braver Angels, and really enjoying the work and the interactions we've done so far.
Okay. I don't think either of you feels retired with all your Braver Angels.
As my husband.
I never want to calculate my hourly rate on this thing, right?
And we won't get your spouses weighing in on that at all here. Okay.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. So talk about how the two of you have been connected through Braver Angels. What have you done together? Steve, could you start?
Sure. Well, Lynn and I have actually never met. This is a Zoom.
We haven't.
Right?
That didn't come out in the rehearsal, Steve.
Yeah. But we are co-directors of field operations. So basically what Lynn and I do are support local fields leaders like state coordinators, alliance leaders, and things like that to bring, stuff happening at Braver Angels to local organizations, because we will go back to face-to-face meetings. We'll continue Zoom. I think grassroots is really an important part of Braver Angels, and that's why I'm really happy to work with Lynn on doing something like that.
Okay, and Lynn, you guys.
Interestingly, my career in education, I've always been one of those educators that was in the central office, and coming to this point in my life and being retired, I've recognized throughout my career that the grassroots, the folks on the ground, the school principals, and in Braver Angels, the alliance co-chairs and the state coordinators are the folks that are really out there, peddling and doing the hard work. So Steve and I did get to work together our first time as alliance co-chairs. We worked with national alliances, which was a wonderful way to get to know each other. And we were very tenuous at first, but we kind of began to see who we were. And when this opportunity for co-chairing and co-directing the field came up, it just seemed like a natural something I wanted to do.
Yeah, okay. So your concerns and gratitudes about the country right now, concerns and gratitudes. And so Lynn, could you go first on this one?
Yes, and the gratitude was an easy one. Bill, watching the people standing in line, watching the news and seeing the long lines of Americans in the rain with their 3-year-olds tugging on their purses, with masks on in the heat. I think what I'm grateful for is that we've all recognized this civic responsibility and we've come forward. And I am so grateful to see it happen. Tennessee has been known as the state with the poorest voting turnout. So here in Tennessee, seeing this was quite a thrill. My one concern is that we're not going to wake up. We need to wake up and realize that the only way we're going to survive and move forward and grow as a nation is if we do it together, if we respect each other and if we listen to each other, and if we're willing to hear another opinion, which is one thing Steve and I are getting really good at doing, is going back and forth and not being afraid to talk about the hard things. My concern is, I hope we do that as a nation.
Okay. And Steve, your gratitudes and concerns.
Yeah, well, I'll start with gratitude. I'll second Lynn. I'm really grateful for the record turnout in the election. I mean, it's really heartening to see so many people coming back and wanting to participate in, you know, government and voting and all that. May it continue. I mean, as a conservative, I'm grateful that over 200 women ran in Republican races in this election. Over almost 100 won their primaries, and 12 new representatives in the House will be female, coming from 11 states. 6 of those 12 will be women of color. Now, conservative parties have a long way to go, but that's not a bad start. And I'm also pleased to see a significant increase in support for conservative candidates for African Americans, Hispanics, Asian Americans. The conservative tent is getting more diverse, and that's a good thing.
Mm.
Now, my concerns are politics is about self-governance. That's hard. I worry that we as a country will grow too tired of dealing with all the complexity and just throw the towel in and, you know, just conclude the other side is evil, wrong, the enemy, etc. And then finally, Bill, I mean, I worry that we confuse or will confuse more voting for someone as approving the person. I voted for Trump, but I certainly do not approve of his behavior. But given a choice of him and Biden, I think that a Trump administration that's full of a lot of other people than Trump offered the best choice of administration. So we have to be careful with that. I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, okay, okay. So the last question is about what you've learned from your, what I'm calling civic friendship here through Braver Angels, that can help others in the country develop these sorts of productive relationships. And so let me start you on that one, Steve.
Sure. I mean, with Lynn is my avatar of Braver Angels, really, right? And I wear blue in honor of her more than anything else tonight. And I've learned that there's many, many good people of good intentions on the other side that are willing to work hard to help the country we love. And I think that's important. It is through hard work that comes mutual respect and trust. I would trust Lynn with my life, but she's from Nashville and I'm from Austin, so that doesn't include choices for country music or barbecue. I've also learned that there's always common ground if you listen to understand and not listen to reload, right? So, I mean, that's a standard ground rule, but it has really important effects, right? And then finally, I've learned that structure brings amazing experiences. I'm always awed by the progression of experiences in our workshops. And I think there's a reason for that. There's a reason we ask questions of the other side at the end of a workshop, because we have to build up trust. So one thing I would strongly suggest to my friends out there is, I know you're really wanting to ask questions of the other side, but think about building trust first through working on something together, and then questions after. I think you'll be very happy you did it that sequence of a way.
Okay, Lynn.
Well, I'm going to go back to my love. I'm glad that Steve asked me to dance. We have learned how to lead, when to follow, when to step on each other's toes. We've learned how to laugh. And most importantly, we've learned how to celebrate a good performance because we have worked so hard together to make it happen. That doesn't just come from two strangers coming together. It comes from being willing to open up, to talk to each other, to not be guarded, and to trust that the other person has the same good intentions that you do. So I would suggest, if you want to know how to make these happen, say yes to the dance. Get in there and give it a try, and you will find the humanity, and it's well worth the time.
Yeah, well, commonality there is you're creating something, you're producing something, you're building something, like the performance or the creation of something. And then you develop the friendship, the relationship through that. That's what I heard is a very common theme there, as opposed to just coming together to explore our differences, right? You have to, you come together to do some stuff that you've been doing well. Well, so thank you guys. This was a joy to be with you. And just imagine there's 877 people thanking you out there, okay? So now we'll move to our third pair. And we have Tom, and we have Carlos, and we have Bill again. Okay, guys, so pleasure to be with you. What I said before is you don't have to refer back to anybody else. If you know, just let's have our conversation. And so we have here Carlos Hernandez and Tom Reeves. Oh, you guys are really dressed. I'm glad you both dressed up so that, you know, there's no inequality in the dress code here, okay? So something about yourselves. So Tom, tell us something about yourself.
Oh, thank you, Bill. My name is Thomas Reeves. I live in Annapolis, Maryland. I grew up as a Air Force military brat, so I was fortunate to have a chance to travel around as a child, and in my chosen career, I could do the same thing. So I've seen quite a bit of the world, interacted with different people internationally, and all in all, it's been a good life. I retired from IT computers after about 35 years. I hate to date myself, but I go all the way back to punch cards. I don't know if anybody actually remembers those, but that's where I started in my career. As far as who I am, I just want to read this. This statement. I think it really hones in on what it is I represent. I understand and accept that an individual's political views do not define them as a person. I seek common ground through conversation and agree to disagree where I can't find it. People believe what they believe, and it's not my purpose to try and change them. So I come to Braver Angels with that perspective.
That's worth framing, I think. All right, Carlos, something about yourself.
Well, my Braver Angel birthday is June 1st, 2019. It occurred at one of your workshops, Red Blue, in Alameda, California. I'm a proud American. I wear my pin on my suit. I'm Stanford University educated. And to the audience, I'm a blue defector to red. My parents raised us as Democrats, and I switched colors in 2016. And why is that important to know? You can imagine how dangerous it is to walk around San Francisco talking about Trump until I met the Church of Braver Angels, or if you're Jewish, the synagogue. So that's my story.
Okay, thank you. So how have you two gotten connected through Braver Angels? So Carlos, first.
I give salutations to Donna Murphy, our organization's lead organizer. She wanted to promote the one-on-one conversations between Black and white. And a bunch of us showed up on a call that she led. And there was Tomas. I like to call him Tomas. I also call him Pastor. And that's how we met. Okay.
And then, so Tom, take it up from there. So you guys met on this sort of consultation group. And take us from there.
Well, in theory, Carlos and I should be at each other's throats. I mean, he's a Hispanic Republican from the West Coast, and I am a blue Democrat, African-American from the East Coast. Yet he and I have formed a bond and alliance through Better Angels. And a lot of it goes to who Carlos is. I want to read a statement. This is who I'm paired with. Carlos is not Don Quixote chasing windmills. He is not a QAnon follower or a conspiracy theorist, but rather a man of faith, intelligence, and character chasing after truth. So we come to Braver Angels with a common goal. We work for the broader organization, but we also work for a subgroup to bring in more persons of color. So, you know, Braver Angels is very inclusive of everybody. You know, everybody here is welcome. And we not only cut through political lines, but we also cut through national origin and racial lines also.
Yeah, okay. And so Tom, why don't you start with the next one? Your concerns and gratitudes about the country right now.
Well, my concern is that after all the dust is settled on the election, at least half the people in the country are going to not be very happy. And, we really have to, find a way to try and mitigate that and have people not so much look at each other as political foes, but look at each other as friends and allies. Look for that commonality in people, and don't be defined by what they believe politically. Look at who they are and judge them from that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I'm thankful for is that we do have braver angels that is in fact chasing that goal down, and to the degree that we can bring people on board to try and embrace that philosophy and open their ears rather than their mouths and listen to what other people have to say. I think we can mitigate that potential turmoil to a large degree.
Okay, thank you. Carlos, concerns and gratitudes.
Well, I'm going to tap into what you do, Dr. Doherty. You're a mental health professional. My concerns are around one metric: behavior. I can tolerate different attitudes, but I do have limits around behavior, whether it's injuring somebody or destroying property. So my concern is around behavior. Mm-hmm. Gratitude, oh my gosh. Options. I'm not a victim. I have tons of options. I have strived and thrived during the pandemic. Why? Because I made meaningful choices. One of them is to join braver angels, then better angels. I get a chance to do something constructive every day, and to show how awesome we are as a pair. Within Angels of Color, Tomas and a Red member formed a group called Safe Spaces. Safe for people of color to come. So safe that they will not fear getting stabbed in the back by another person of color and being called an Uncle Tom. Mm-hmm. There are many people of color who are the real minority and not marching in the streets. We want Braver Angels to be that safe. Tom is leading that effort with another Red. Who else can say that in this country? I don't think so. We do. We are. Braver Angels is. So that's my gratitude.
Whoa. Yeah. Powerful stuff. And I see you nodding on that one, Tom. Yeah. So let's take us out here with the question of what have you learned from your relationship, from your civic friendship through Braver Angels that could help others in the country? So Carlos.
What I have learned is that politics is not the core of my identity. It's not. And it's not Tomas's either. And that has opened up a window of us to explore. We find out what resonates with each other. We have built dimensions of trust. It's not my identity. It's not his. Folks, wake up. There's more to life than politics. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, Tom.
Well, this is going to sound self-serving, but everyone on this call should go to braverangels.org and look a little bit more about what we're about. You are not an outsider looking in. You too can be a part of this organization and see and participate in the things that all of the speakers have done and seen so far. That's really what I've learned, that looking from the outside, you think, there's no way that this is going to work. But once you get inside and you see how it's structured, you see how people interact with each other. And the point is not that we agree with each other, it's that we listen to each other. And we seek to find out points of commonality. What do we have in common that we can move forward with?
Well,
if I may add, Dr. Doherty.
Sure, go for it.
The kind of people we need are scared people. Come scared.
Scared.
Mm-hmm. And then admit that you're scared. Because if you admit you're scared, you don't come off like you know everything. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you'll listen to the other side. and then maybe you'll build some trust. So come scared and don't act like you know everything. That's the success to be a braver angel.
Hey, we could put that on the door outside. Come scared.
Come scared.
I just want and I want to underline that part of what I've heard from you guys is you have, at least two major reasons not to get along and like each other. Okay, red, blue, and then race, ethnicity, right? Two dividing lines. And as you said, Carlos, boy, when those get all tangled up, it's really doubly hard to connect. And so it's inspiring that you two have connected in this way. And so we have you're going to write up your opening comment there, Tom, okay? And then we'll get our Come Scared banners as well, Carlos, from this conversation.
Okay, consider it done.
Yeah, so thank you both. And we're going to now go back to April.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. That's always enlightening and inspiring when that happens. Our red blue pairs are just the best. And yes, incidentally, you are my only Bill Doherty. So okay. Yeah, don't worry. All right, we are now going to hear some reflections on what we've just heard and also what's next. And this evening, we're going to hear from Monica Guzman. And Monica is a Seattle-based journalist who lives for good conversation sparked by challenging questions. So, she's our kind of person. A lot of you probably know her from our podcasts and some of our other media. She is the co-founder of The Evergrey, a former columnist at the Seattle Times, a recent fellow at Harvard's Nieman Foundation for Journalism and the Henry M. Jackson Foundation, an immigrant and dual US-Mexico citizen, and the mom of 2 bilingual kiddos. Also, she's presently working on a book due in 2022 about how to build bridges in dangerously divided times. Monica, share with us what's on your heart.
Whew. Well, first off, it's hard for me to express how grateful I am to be among all of you. I discovered Braver Angels it's a blur, a year and a half, something ago, but ever since I've been so happy and felt so much less alone in an effort to try to look where many others don't for solutions, creativity, reconciliation, walking into spaces that some folks have given up on, dark spaces that, sometimes we're afraid we're falling into. And this is a group that gives me so much hope. So to tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from, I'm going to tell you a story about how I watched the election results yesterday. So several days ago, my parents were over for dinner and I asked them if they wouldn't mind if I came over their house to watch the election results with them. And they sort of raised their eyebrows a bit. We have a really great relationship. It's surprisingly great, I guess, because they are red and voted for Trump, and I am blue and voted for Biden. But they said, yeah, sure, come on over. And so driving over there yesterday, I thought in the car, like, wait, what exactly am I thinking here? It can be fun to just be around your side and be around your people, in an election. Although, of course, these days elections are less fun and certainly more heavy. And so what exactly am I seeking by coming over and spending the day with my parents? I thought about the milestone that my family is celebrating this year. We've been American citizens for 20 years. I went to my parents' naturalization ceremonies in the year 2000, and pretty much immediately my parents became Republicans. I remember that their politics were a bit of a shock to me and my brother. I was 17 at the time, but I think our politics were a bit of a shock to them. A few years later, we went to the movies. We always went to the movies, and we watched Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11. And the conversation on the way back in the car, oh boy, like I still have it. Just my dad and my brother, me. Whoa, this thunderstorm, and it was just crazy. So yesterday, when I'm over there, we went at it. How do you not? I was, eating Mom's delicious pork chili tacos, and we butted heads on immigration, on what it takes to help the disadvantaged, on when folks on CNN or Fox were showing bias or when they were just being good reporters. On abortion, which is the key issue for my mother through and through, on which we've had some really amazing conversations over the years, on what it means to be a strong leader, which me and my dad will never agree on. I took a walk with my dad at one point. He loves to take photos of birds. It's his big hobby. And he told me that one day not long ago, he was out on the trail and he ran into a photographer that he admires on Instagram. And they start talking, and this photographer says something really disparaging about Trump. And he probably assumed that my dad didn't like Trump. He's an immigrant with a Mexican accent in the Seattle area. But of course that wasn't true. And my dad told me, sadly, that he played along. He kind of nodded and let that assumption stand. And when he finished telling me that story, he said, I've heard that some couples don't let their parents see their grandkids. And I've wondered if that'll ever happen to us. Now I have 2 kids, and they hang out with their grandparents all the time. And so my response came before I could even think. And I told them, jamás, never, Dad. That's never gonna happen. That is never gonna happen. So after one of our political collisions last night, when I realized that my argument was not all I thought it was cracked up to be, and their argument wasn't all they thought it was cracked up to be, I sat there with the ice cream that Dad had served me. I think it was butter pecan. And Mom was pouring these sangrias that she was mixing. And they said that they were really happy I was there. And I told them what I had come to realize, which is that that was absolutely the best place that I could be, was with them. And I don't want to dismiss the differences here. They're big. We all know that. We know how big they are. I was getting texts from many of my friends, just, you know, the emotions, the absolute devastation. They're big, the issues that divide us. You know, they matter a lot. They matter to us as individuals and our communities and to the whole country, the choices we make, how we go forward. I get signals that I'm supposed to dismiss my parents because they are on the other side of a huge divide, and I can't do it. I won't. I never will. I was with my parents yesterday because what we are doing as Americans, as people, to make a society together, there must be more to it than that. There must be more to it than hatred and suspicion. There must be more to it than that. I'm a braver angel because I know there's more to it than that. When there's pressure to sever ties, to break bridges, to stop listening, to sit and stew and vilify half the country, we know there's more to it than that. There's more to it than the arguments, the opinions, the way we butt heads, how we fear each other, neighbors, relatives. We're here because we know that the truth that matters isn't just in the news we happen to read, in the stories that we hold and release, and the signals we send. We know that it's in each other. So sometimes I look back and I see 2 dials. One dial is the stories we tell and yell, right? Like about our world, the Facebook posts, in the big rooms and the small rooms and the silos, the articles and the posts with all their certainties, all the signals we send out, like here's who I am and what I believe. Are you with me or are you against me? And that second dial is to me like us, but like the genuine us, the one who's walked a unique path to get here with unique experiences and values that chart our course. The ones you can get to know if you ask and say hi. Both dials are important, but I wonder sometimes if they're set to the wrong volumes. Maybe we can turn the first one down and turn the second one up. So I think we're here as braver angels and as Americans because we can't give up on our ability to surprise each other, to get creative, to see that there's a problem that is enormous in our country, and to have the audacity to think that we can actually solve it together. People say that what we're doing is impossible, that it's not worth it, that you're betraying one side or another. I'll admit I'm shy sometimes to say that I'm involved with Braver Angels to some of my Blue friends because I'm afraid they'll think that I've abandoned something, that I've abandoned my values. But there it is again, fear, right? Like I don't want to be motivated by fear. I'm not abandoning my values. I'm embracing them. I don't believe that we can, I think that if we cannot be honest together, we're not truly together. And if we're not truly together, how can we hope to build the society that we deserve? So maybe some of you have felt like me that this is kind of a lonely path, that you're supposed to pick a side and dig your trench, pick your enemy and want nothing to do with them, be certain about them, be certain you don't have to wonder about them because you already know what's in their hearts and what it means. But this is not a lonely way, y'all. I really mean that. Look around, you know. It's like April said, we're here. We're sharing a space and a commitment. We know this is important. And we know what everybody knows and what everybody senses, that the disconnection is not forever, that the dilemmas are not hopeless. We're an amazing community in an amazing country that dares to do this work. And I cannot be more excited to be here with y'all and to be excited and encouraged by what's coming up. And I want to echo what Carlos just said. Come scared, you know? All right, people are scared, cool. Let's work with that. It was a huge motivator, this election. It brought people out. It brought people's passions out, right? What are we really afraid of? We're afraid of a world we don't feel we belong in. We're afraid of a world that doesn't work, that feels like it's got the wrong things at its heart. But we have really good things in our hearts, right? And if we pour those out, we're gonna be fine. So this is the space where I feel that with the most confidence of any other space. And I just can't thank y'all enough for being here. And yeah, we're gonna do awesome things, and we're already doing awesome things. So thanks.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you. So many jazz hands. Thank you for giving me some of what I needed actually today with what you've just said. Yeah. Wow. Well, so speaking of awesome things, we are now going to go and begin to talk about what can we do? What are those awesome things? And this will be, this isn't going to be over tomorrow, right? Like, even if some aspects of it are, this is not over tomorrow. So this is we're just taking first steps here. And I want to ask our beloved president, David Blankenhorn, to come and lead our charge and tell us what we can do. Actually, I'm sorry, one quick note before we do that. I want to let everybody watching know that right after this, we're going to take questions on what some next steps are. And so if you want to ask questions, you can use the Q&A box, and you get to it by looking down where your mute button is and going over, and there should be a Q&A button, and you can type in any questions that you have. If you're on a tablet or an iPhone, it'll be at the top. And yeah, we will start calling on folks as soon as David wraps up, just to be efficient. And so go ahead and get your questions in, and we look forward to talking about everything. So David, over to you.
Thank you, April. Wow, I am just so happy to be with you tonight. My job for this meeting is to give the so-called call to action. I'm supposed to say what are the things that everybody can do coming out of this meeting, and inspire you to take these actions. But I honestly, I just feel like I don't have anything to add to what you have seen, to the people. I mean, if you just see these people who you heard tonight, I'm just so happy to, you know, just if you just, what do you think of what you saw from April, our chair, or the panelists, and what did you think about what Monica said? And I don't see what I can add, really. And there are so many other people around the country that are doing this work. And I helped start the organization 4 years ago with a couple of other people, but I meet people now every day. I'm for the first time, who are just pouring their hearts and souls into this thing. And it just means so much to me in my life right now. The two things I will say to just fulfill my duties. If those of you out there who are not members of Braver Angels, please join. Please consider joining. We're the fastest growing group in the country, bringing together liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, independent on equal terms to try to reduce the rancor and increase the goodwill in our politics and our society. So that testimony, that mission that you've seen tonight, I mean, that's what we're doing. And we're a grassroots volunteer organization. Almost everybody you heard from tonight is a volunteer. So join us. You know, the dues are low, $12. Some people give more, but it's $12. And so just go to the website and join. And I think you'll help your country, and I think you'll be glad you did. The other thing is that I want to ask a really specific thing tonight, which is, would you all consider supporting a letter? I'm about to read the letter to you. It's only 300 words. It's called What We Will Do to Hold America Together. And we're spreading this letter around the country. So first, I just want to read it to you quickly and then tell you why this is the strategy for this period and what you can do. Okay, so I'm just going to just read this. What we will do to hold America together. At a moment of danger in this era of divisiveness, we, the American people, come together to speak for the Union. Some of us voted for President Trump and others for Vice President Biden. But in this season of intense and legitimate partisanship, we, the undersigned, commit ourselves also to a higher partisanship for the maintenance of our Union, for the importance of our shared civic life, and for those feelings of goodwill that Lincoln called the better angels of our nature. For ourselves and for all Americans, we appeal for the complete disavowal of election-related violence, calls for such violence, or excuse-making for anyone on either side who would commit or tolerate violence as a means of influencing an election. In a time of growing separation, we pledge ourselves to words and deeds intended to help us find one another as citizens. We start with this commitment. We will not demonize or question the decency of Americans who voted differently from us. When we oppose their political views, we will say so with vigor, but we will not castigate them as persons. If we face a constitutional crisis in which our institutions cannot produce consensus on who is the legitimately elected president, we resolve to work together across this chasm for solutions grounded in the Constitution and guided by our democratic and nonviolent traditions and our sense of shared identity. At stake in this contest is democracy's North Star, peaceful political transition. It's a time for opponents, but not for enemies. We, the undersigned, will work separately for what each of us believes is right, but we will also work together to protect the land we all love, to lift up American citizenship and the American promise in a time of peril, and to find in ourselves the understanding that our differences don't simply divide us, but also can strengthen and complete us. Why this letter now? What we found is that this letter, which has been signed by about, I think, 7,000 people and organizational leaders, has been endorsed by a number of organizations. We found that it's a way to communicate in less than 300 words the basic message that we're trying to communicate, both coming from ourselves and to our fellow citizens and to our leaders. We found that we found that we can get media to pay attention to this, local, national media. We found that people are interested in discussing these ideas, and we found that people resonate with them. It feels like people feel that, yes, this is what I want for the country. And it's a simple statement that both we found that it can be very successful in communicating to our fellow citizens, and also while communicating, bringing them into our effort, bringing them into our movement, bringing them into this building of citizenship. So that's why I'm asking you to help us with this now, in this period of what April called limbo, this period where there's a sense of uncertainty and still kind of working things out and a lot of tension. This is the message we want to communicate now. And so it couldn't be simpler, what I'm asking you to do, practically speaking. You go to our website and you, it'll say what we will do to hold America together. And the button says sign and share. Click that button. That's all you have to do. Click the button, sign and share. If you haven't signed it, you can sign it right now. And if you click share, you will also, it will help you spread it on social media, and it will give you some tips on how you can get this letter out to your networks, your friends, your colleagues. Some people have been just calling up friends and holding discussion groups about it. Many people have been writing letters to the editor of local newspapers. I'm sure some of you on this call have done that. And if you haven't, I would really ask you to do that. Letters to the editor is a wonderful democratic tool. It's low tech, it's easy, and they really frequently get published. So write a letter to the editor. If you do it with somebody from the other political party and talk about the importance of what we're doing here, it'll work, it'll work. So, you know, I think we all know that if we break down into two parts of America and each part hates the other part and doesn't trust, when the level of trust breaks down so far, our democracy itself is threatened. Our American experiment in ordered liberty is threatened whenever, and this is irrespective of who takes office in January. I know it's important who takes office, but whoever takes office, this profound collapse of trust, this profound collapse of civic friendship that can withstand political disagreement, it threatens our American experiment in ordered liberty. It endangers what is most precious to us as a country. So I'm asking you to consider being a part of an effort to change that outcome, to make it not a story of decline, but a story of that the people that you saw, just think about the people that you heard tonight, just remember their faces, the thing you got from their eyes. That's what we're trying to do here. That's the kind of better selves that we're trying to be and to hold up. So I would ask you to help us. I would ask you to be a part of this and join up and help us with this letter and be a part of this, I think, something that can really do something to help the land we love. Oh, thank you.
Right. Thank you, David. So we will now do Q&A as promised. And I just want to remind folks, and maybe I should have said this more clearly earlier, that we're particularly trying to do Q&A around these action steps. And so I know that we're getting a lot of general questions, and those are good too, but this time is sort of specifically intended for Q&A about the action steps and sort of adjacent things. So first, I'd like to go to Doug Teschner. Apologies if I'm butchering that. Go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know what your question is.
Oh, thank you. This is Doug Teschner from New Hampshire. And, I'm proud to be part of this organization, and it was great to hear the speakers tonight. My question is, how can we bring this more to scale so it gets the attention it deserves? It just seems like we kind of operate in the background. I mean, we're all trying to get the message out, but what can we do to really take this to the American people so they really see this as having the kind of importance it does at the same level that the negative forces are acting? Thank you.
Absolutely. David, do you want to take a shot at that?
To really strongly, to have a real influence in the country, you need about 1% of the population. If you can get that significant, you can make a big difference. That's the Sierra Club, that's the National Rifle Association, that's others. We're not there yet, but that's where we aim to be. Our dues paying membership has doubled just in the last 4 months. The online transition after the health crisis began has actually allowed us to increase our reach dramatically. We have more than 800 people on this call tonight, so you can just, so the growth is there, but the questioner, I think, raises a really good point of how do you go to a whole different level of scale. And that's our strategy, is to develop partnerships with serious national networks, big national organizations that have large memberships that we can cooperate with to bring our programs to them, so that we don't simply have, our organizers go out and organize something either online or in a community and you have X number of people. But can we reach out to every Rotary Club in the United States? There are 8,000, and we're trying to talk with the Rotary Club now, and there are many other examples. So I think a partnership strategy, as well as a more sophisticated online experience strategy, will help us scale in a way that will move us toward the 1% of the country that will really be able to have a seat at the table in a pretty serious way.
Wonderful. So for our next question, we will go to Jim. Jim, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Yes, my question is very simple. How could we obtain a copy of the letter?
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's on the website. And so braverangels.org, you just click on to the, sign and share the letter, and you'll see the text. It's very short. And if you wanted to copy and make your own hard copy, you can do that too. But yeah, That's the most important question of the night so far, because that's really what I hope all of us can do over the next week, is do what we can with that 300-word message. So thank you for that question.
Mm-hmm. Next, we'll go to Jeremy Roth-Kushel. Jeremy, go ahead and ask.
Hi. Here in the radical middle geographically of the United States of America, I want to ask about the space for those of us of the radical political middle of America who may not associate necessarily with quote unquote either side. We may hold our nose in the moment and make choices, but is there a constructive role for us in terms of this emerging radical American patriotic middle who might be able to hold the space of questions of truth and accountability to common principles such as rule of law or exposing the evidence of election fraud or things like that, rather than just building the bridges of kismet that are really importantly being done here between those of differences of politics, policy, or cultural approaches? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, I'm having a hard time distilling the question that you're asking. Are you saying that there are certain policies?
I think it's political independence partly. So people who are radically patriotic for America and don't necessarily identify with either party. And Jeremy, if that's wrong, let me know.
Got it. Well, that's a great question. We actually went through a really intensive examination of that issue some months back and decided to really carve out a space in the organization for people who are not do not identify as red or blue. So we have an opportunities not only for participation, but leadership from people who are not, who are kind of politically homeless in that way. So it's a good question, and I thank you for it.
Thank you. But it's not just about, I'm not only asking about non-political affiliation, I'm also asking about our role as potentially truth holders and the potential rule of law holders, so that the bridge that you all are building that's so important is not being built over an ongoing fire, for example, such as the overt or covert overthrow of rule of law or election integrity in the midst of all of this. That's sort of the question I'm asking.
Yeah, we have said in this letter, as you'll remember, it is really about the disavowal of election-related violence. And it's about the disavowal of demonizing our fellow citizens. And it's about trying to work together in this instance of a constitutional crisis across political lines. We are not, I think, we're not doing what you suggest. That is, we're not saying there's certain ideas or standards that we're upholding regarding issues of how elections, election integrity, voter suppression, those are not things we're doing. And the reason we're not doing them is not because people don't have very, very strong feelings about them throughout the organization, but because these are not issues that our members agree on. They don't agree on the facts of the question. They don't agree on the emphasis placed on things. They don't agree on how the problem got to be the problem. And so I think what you're asking is, are we going to identify a kind of concrete agenda having to do with certain values that you have articulated in your question specifically? And to be honest, the answer to that question is no, we're not. We're doing a different thing here. We are not saying that as long as you agree on certain priorities about what's important about policy or direction, then you get to join Braver Angels. We are saying that the only precondition is the sincere desire to build relationship with people who are different than you politically and look for areas of common ground where they exist.
David, this is great, and I want to get a couple more questions in.
Sorry.
No, it's a complex answer to a complex question. It's good.
It's a powerful question, and I wish we had a lot more time to discuss it, and I'll be happy to do that offline.
Great, thank you. So next we're going to go to Mary Teresa Webb.
Thank you.
Mary.
Thank you for allowing me an opportunity to ask this question. This is a very important forum. My question has to do with how do we reach groups of clergy to convince them this should be a priority for their congregations to partake in this kind of dialogue, who are now, frankly, many afraid to even deal with it.
It's a terrific question. I'm wondering, Bill, if you wanted to address the work that's being done, or I don't know if Bishop Beckwith is on the call, but I'm gonna ask Bill to shot at that.
Yeah, happy to respond, and thank you for that, because that's obviously a very important social institution. What we're trying to do is to offer tools. It doesn't work to just say you should care. In fact, frontline clergy are dealing with people coming to them all the time saying you should care about my priority or other priority. But I think we're offering tools. In fact, this very weekend, I'm doing 2 presentations for the Southern Minnesota Synod of Lutheran Ministers of the ELCA, specifically around this issue. And they approached us because they see the divisions in their congregation. So my answer is, I think this is an important area for us, and we have to bring something to folks. Not, we can't just come say, pay attention to our issue. So thank you for that.
And if I may,
quickly,
Mark Beckwith,
yes.
Bishop in the Episcopal Church, and last night we had a series of religious moments of peace. And what we're going to do is get a lot of religious leaders and going to see what we can do to gather them to use the commitment that they demonstrated last night and how we can build on that. And there's a lot of work to do there, but there's incredible potential. And I thank you for the question.
Absolutely. So there are a lot more questions I wish we could take right now. We are going to have to move on, but you'll be receiving more information from us about this, and we are happy to engage all the questions via email and in future conversations. So thank you. We are going to do one more question. And so those of you who like to put things in the Q&A box, get ready. And that is, I just want to ask everyone, what are you taking away with you from tonight, from this conversation? And we'll give you 30 seconds to reflect. And when you're ready, just go ahead and put your answer in the Q&A box, and we'll invite a few folks to share out. All right, let's start. Folks can keep thinking and keep putting your answers in the Q&A box. I'm gonna start with Jeff Platzer. Jeff, what are you taking away from tonight?
Yeah, so I added hope. It seems so hopeless at sometimes when you see how bitterly divided folks are. You just have to get on Facebook, and I've got a mix of friends of different political backgrounds, and I feel like what you're doing is showing a path forward for how do we begin to break down these divisions, and that you actually are showing like not only is there a way to do it, but folks actually are doing it. And it's so I just find that very hopeful.
Wonderful, thank you. Susan Hay, go ahead and share with us what you're taking away.
Hi, and hello from Missoula, Montana. I'm a CEO of a United Way, here in Missoula, and you know, work with a lot of different people of varying views. And I'm just very inspired by finding this community of people who believe, as I do, that the only way forward is to stop the demonization and find common ground and look for what unites us rather than divides us. So this was exactly what I needed, and I am going to spread the message throughout Missoula, Montana.
Excellent. We have found our leader in Missoula. I love it. Thank you, Susan. Patricia Canapel, go ahead.
Apple.
Great.
I agree with what was just said, that this is exactly what we need to be doing right now. And we have a few enemies facing us, none of which is each other. We have the pandemic, we have misinformation, and then we have those forces that would seek to divide us. And those forces are both internal and external. So I'm really happy that you guys are doing this, and I've signed the pledge and shared it on social media. So thank you.
All right, wonderful. Thanks. Rick Rosen, what are you taking away? Can't hear you yet, Rick.
That there are other people that are interested in finding common ground.
Wonderful, thanks. Yeah, there definitely are, even now. All right, Sarah Radcliffe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Radcliffe in Portland, Oregon. I spent many years in the pharmaceutical industry, and am also by heritage coming from a very progressive family. So I often say I don't lean blue or lean red. All my life, I've tried to find that part in the middle. And I'm taking away that there is a group of people who really want to establish that dialogue and heal our country. Over the past few days, I have always followed elections obsessively. I've sat in front of the TV until it was called. This time I just couldn't. I just couldn't. And I was so stressed out by the fact that, you know, no matter who wins, obviously our country is very divided. So today really, as I put in the chat, really uplifted my spirits and let me know there are others out there who know that we need to seek to understand each other and bring our country together. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's go with Sherry Mann Stewart next.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello from Atlanta, Georgia. In fact, DeKalb County in Atlanta, Georgia, which is on the news a lot right now.
Yep.
I just said that after this discussion tonight, I feel less alone and more hopeful that there are this many people, and probably a lot more who haven't obviously heard about the group yet, but this many at least, who have some similar goals that I do. So I definitely feel more hopeful tonight than I did last night.
Glad to hear it. Madalena Rizzo, your turn.
I'm so grateful for everything Braver Angels does. I'm about to cry. It makes my heart sing to hear this unity, even amid such a tumultuous and conflict-ridden time. And I'm just so grateful to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. And let's end with Mike Marshall. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate everything. Everyone resonated with me. I think one thing in particular was the mention of grandchildren not seeing their grandparents, that hits home with me personally. It's inspired me to start my Braver Angels journey by reaching back out to my grandfather on the other side of the political aisle. And so I just really appreciate that, and can't wait to start this journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's it for this evening, everyone. We have heard about families and about, actually, sorry, I misspoke. I'm seeing folks leaving. We're going to end with a song. But I think, you know, what we've heard tonight speaks for itself. A particular thank you to everyone who was willing to share their story publicly tonight, and to speak up with their voices. It really, really got through. And for our final note, we like to end with music these days. We find it's, you know, speaks better than words and prose sometimes. And so I want to introduce you a woman who I've just met, but whose sort of like slogan I immediately loved. It's "I sing, I frack." Alma Cook is a singer-songwriter and entrepreneur who hails from both a blue state and a red state. While working as a musician in Los Angeles, California, she also owns a business in the oil fields of Williston, North Dakota, giving her an immense passion and gratitude for cross-partisan, cross-cultural friendships. Alma, let's hear your song.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. Thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. Oh, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
at his hands. Oh my goodness. Thank you, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Good night.